Hello and welcome to this week's beginner's guide. I am very excited to bring this one to you today because one, I think it's going to be a really helpful video for a lot of people, and two, it is the 7th beginner's guide which I have done focusing on the hero skills and the synergies. We have one for all the other secret texts in the game up on my YouTube channel, on Reddit, on the forums, and on Steam. And yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of closing the chapter on this phase of the beginner's guides. It takes a lot of research. They've been about 50 minutes long. Well, some of them only 30, but some of them close to 50 minutes. And I'm looking forward to doing some shorter beginner's guides in the near future, which we'll talk about at the end of today's video. This week we're going to be looking at the 4 Voidtech Hero Skills, which can be found here on the hero screen. If you click where it says skill points, you'll see all the things I have available to me, all the things that are locked, and the things that I have learned. We're going to be talking about the blue ones here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 Voidtech skills that we're going to talk about in detail. After we're done talking about that, I want to talk a little bit more about the stronger synergies that are currently in the game for the Voidtech. And I expect that the 2 expansions planned in 2020 will introduce some new combinations, but I do feel like I know enough about this secret tech to start putting together a helpful guide on the subject. Alright, we're ready to talk more about Void Bullets. Void Bullets is available at the beginning of the game and only costs 2 skill points to buy. When you do that, this hero's attacks, its ranged attacks, will ignore 50% of the penalties from cover and units in the way, which can be kind of nice unless you're fighting somebody who doesn't use cover and there's no units in the way. I would pass on this skill. I'm sure there are builds where this comes in useful, and it will make it so you don't have to invest as much in things like Deadly Eye to increase your accuracy, or maybe get as close to the enemy to increase your hit chance. But I just don't feel like it's worth 2 skill points. I think there's much more valuable things, like steady aim is pretty nice. Just being able to run over to cover to get a little bit more accuracy, I think will increase your accuracy more than ignoring the cover penalties on an enemy, or at least it will do you more good than the benefit you gain from this. The next one is Phase Shift. Phase Shift teleports you to a hex that is 7 hexes away from the one that you started on. It has a cooldown of 2, and when you do that, you're left with 1 action point. It works just like the mod that lets you jump around, so you can use this instead of a mod to increase your mobility. So probably more useful than Void Bullets, but still something that I personally don't like to put on my commanders. I found that even though it's only 2 skill points, because it takes up a full action, it's maybe not as good as a repeating attack or a sniper. Now, Shield Modulator is pretty good. I actually like that one a lot. Adding a little bit of shields to all of your units in the stack is usually worth doing. It's 5 skill points, which is kind of a lot, but I think compared to the other ones that increase your armor and shields, that's pretty normal. That's to be expected. It costs yeah, I said 5 skill points already. You have to be level 6, so you won't be able to get that for a while. I think there's some others which allow you to increase your defenses a little bit earlier in the game. Dimensional Feedback is amazing. I love this skill. I take it pretty much whenever I get a Voidtech hero in any of my playthroughs, because reflecting 50% of the damage done to you back at the attacker it's going to let you pick off units with less effort. If a lower tier unit attacks somebody who's got, say, 100 HP, they may end up dying to the damage that they deal. Although I think the AI accounts for that, and it doesn't try to put itself in situations where it will kill itself off based off that dimensional feedback damage. Don't know if I said anything about the required level. Yeah, you have to be level 8. That's a pretty nice one because you have to choose between this and usually something else like a skill module extension is pretty good, but I think that one's worth taking because sometimes you just use a mod to get the ability to reflect. 6 skill points is a lot, but totally worth it. Now, before we jump into all the synergies between the different races and the Voidtech secret tech, I did want to talk about the popular backgrounds for this secret tech, as well as the differences between the 6 type of Voidwalkers. Personally, I'm a big fan of using Covert Operative. Covert Operative allows you to research your society operation research a little bit quicker, which in turn allows you to get more tactical operations points and strategic operation points to play around with, which is very nice with the Voidtech's doctrines. I'm a fan of this one right here, adding a little bit more production for all of your colonists working jobs. There's no downside to that, it's only good, so you might as well take it. Whereas a lot of the ones that play around with your economy, they do something kind of negative for something good. This is a really nice one, plus 15 research for every research sector, although it's kind of late and you probably invested a lot of research getting to that point, so research to that point may not be as valuable as say something else that you could be increasing, like say energy. Plus 20% energy production is very nice. I think that's one of the best doctrines you can get, but just like this one, it takes a lot of research to get here, so maybe not the best long-term objective. If you're doing a multiplayer, the game might not last that long if it's just 1v1. Yeah, you may want to go for something else like martial tradition. I know martial tradition is quite popular with a lot of people while playing the Voidtech because it makes it easier to get your weapons mods, as well as giving your commander an extra action point when they kill another unit. Yeah, I think you can use some things to bring people to your commander, like the phase manipulator has the ability to abduct people. Let me see if I can find it. Its abduct skill, yeah, it can bring a unit right next to your melee hero and allow him to do 3 attacks. You can also teleport up to next to other units to do 3 attacks, and if you kill that unit, then you get to do something else, like maybe jetpack away. So yeah, there's a lot of synergy with martial tradition and the mobility that you can get from the Voidtech, as well as like other things that are just generally pretty good, like being evasive. That's awesome, you want that. So yeah, you want to be going for the mods and all the nice little weapon mods that you can apply to your people using that martial tradition. Another thing I like to do is I like to go for Star Union Scholar, because it's got some benefits for these guys. By getting your secret tech researched faster, you'll be able to pump out Echo Walkers very quickly, as well as phase manipulators and rift generators. I know rift generators are very popular in the form, so this seems like a decent strategy if that is what you're going for, because they can use that dimensional desync to make other units useless, essentially. Now I think we're ready to jump into the Echo Walkers. Let's find our Echo Walkers here. We have an Amazon Echo Walker, which let's compare him to the Syndicate one, because the Syndicate one is pretty boring. The Syndicate one can do a repeating attack with 10 damage on it, whereas the Amazon has a single attack action, which you can do extra damage if you move more than 3 hexes, or at least 3 hexes. So 17 plus 20% is pretty good. I didn't do the math earlier, but that's like what, 3 extra damage, takes that up to 20 damage per turn, and it only requires that single action point, so you could be like staggered and then do a little bit of movement and get your charge bonus, and in that situation it's definitely better than the Syndicate's attack. It's got a higher chance of applying dimensional instability, and I think this guy also has a little bit more movement than all the other ones. Everything else about this Amazon unit is the same. They all get this evasion thing. At least I believe they do. Yeah, it looks like they all get defense mode evasion. Now let's talk about the assembly one. He's got slightly less attack than the Syndicate Echo Walker and the Vanguard Echo Walker and the Kir'ko Echo Walker, because the devs decided that this unit needed a nerf. I think when the game launched, he had 10 attack like everyone else and could assimilate 6 HP. Assimilation got a nerf, and I think even then this unit was still too good, so they decided, yeah, we gotta take 1 more point of damage off of it. It can scavenge parts, allowing it to heal after a battle, and everything else about it is the same, I believe. Oh, it's a cyborg that synergizes as well with the assembly, and it gets extra arc resistance. So all in all, not that great on paper, but in practice, that's it. Just being able to assimilate is really powerful, and there's a lot of synergy with going melee heavy with the assembly, so it's still, yeah, very, very nice. Just checking the cost is the same. The cost is the same. So Echo Walkers, the Dvar Echo Walkers, they get this Void Hammer, which does knockback. It's similar to the Amazon thing in that it's a single attack. It only uses 1 action point, but you don't get a charge bonus. It does 20 damage right off the bat. You don't need to go charging in to get that base bit of damage. And everything else is the same. No extra movement, no extra armor, no extra HP. Amazon, yeah, it's 40 HP just like the other ones, which I think is interesting because you can compare that to the Lancer. I think the Lancer has 50 HP. We might do that at the end after we're done looking at all the different ones. We're halfway there. The Kir'ko are able to do Swarm Shielding and Frenzied, which increases their damage and gives them a little bit more defense, which it makes sense. You know, the normal Frenzied tier 1 unit, infantry unit for the Kir'ko, they get Frenzy and Swarm Shield, so this melee unit should too. Everything else is the same here. This guy is the same as the baseline thing, but it's actually the exact same thing as the Kir'ko, but it doesn't get a Frenzy or a Swarm Shield. Everything else, the exact same. So yeah, we don't need to talk about them for very long. The Syndicate has some other nice synergies, and I think that's why this is awful, so that people don't always take the Syndicate, the Voidtech class. Vanguard Echo Walkers, they get Quantum Pulse, which is a secondary ability that is slightly different than Quantum Echo. Quantum Echo lets you basically spawn in another unit just like this one. You can replace the original unit if the original unit dies. Only has a cooldown of 4, so you can keep just spamming that out in combat. This one still has a cooldown of 4. The clone lasts for 2 turns, so yeah, I guess you can't spam it forever. They'll disappear after 2 turns. But what this guy gets on top of the normal thing is that it can apply a dimensional instability to a couple units. It does an AoE, which could be nice if you jump yourself into a great position, but that chance is pretty low. It's pretty insignificant. To be honest, this unit is pretty much identical to the Syndicate Echo Walker. There's a small difference, but it's pretty negligible. You could probably ignore it entirely. I just remembered I did want to compare the Amazon Echo Walker here. 40 HP, 1 armor, 2 shields, 40 movement points, 17 attack, to the Lancer, just very, very briefly. The Lancer has a little bit more HP, same defenses, same movement. It does a little bit less damage on its melee, but the melee can be repeating. Wow, that's actually really, really nice. I hadn't noticed that it was repeating. I thought it was a single attack. I never really used the Amazon Lancers. That may have been changed at one point. The Laser Lance is a range attack, which the other guy doesn't have. Shields up is slightly different than evasion. Instead of being harder to hit, you have more defenses, so pretty similar. From what I can tell, all 6 races have valid strategies for the Voidtech secret tech. I think it's a really useful secret tech because it can fit into a variety of different playstyles. If you're focusing on a melee build, then you've got operations and mods which can help move your units quickly across the battlefield, and if you want to sit back and use range to fight your enemies, then you've got operations and skills and abilities to move your enemies further away from you, maintaining the optimal distance that you want to fight at. So it's kind of hard to go wrong with it. The Dvar are a pretty logical combination due to the fact that they have a lot of mechanical units in the Dvar tree and in the Voidtech tree, meaning that you can make the most of your abilities to boost the mechanical units performances. This guy, for example, he can use he can take advantage of the nitro battery ability that can give mechanical or cyborg units extra damage. So yeah, also there's healing, which the Dvar can do on them, and these guys can heal them back. So there's just a nice bit of synergy due to them sharing unit types. But top of that, the Voidtech covers one of the biggest weaknesses for the Dvar: mobility. Being able to pass through cover will allow your trenchers to go where they want to go in order to make the most out of their trenches and their single shot attacks. Sometimes an obstacle will be in your way and it'll make it harder to get into a flanking shot or next to another unit you want to protect. So yeah, being able to pass through cover should allow you to just get into the right position for not just your trenchers but all kinds of different units. The Dvar honestly don't have a strong melee unit, so the Dvar Echo Walker fills that role really nicely, and the Voidtech also provide an abundance of flying units. This Phase Manipulator and this Rift Generator pair nicely with some ramjets. Ramjets are melee focused. They do have a ranged attack, but the Dvar in general suffer from not really having aerial units that can do very many ranged attacks. So by placing these guys in your armies, you really diversify the rules that you have in your empire. Sure, they're all mechanical, and that's similar to this mechanical unit, but because it can cover a different damage type, that's quite nice, quite useful. Yeah, that's all I actually have in my notes for the Dvar. I'm sure there's some stuff I'm leaving out in here. The mod here is really good. We talked about that earlier. Yeah, dimensional feedback is good, or instability is good with the Dvar because they can inflict quite a bit of kinetic damage. And dimensional, oh no, I can't spell. How do I spell it? Alright, yeah, DIM. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Instability. I should just type that, instability. It reduces kinetic resistances, so those attacks that do kinetic damage will do more damage. If you build up this stuff, it gets better and better and better, but we don't really need to worry about that right now. I think we're ready to talk about the Dvar upgrades, the hero skill upgrades. The Dvar have Incentivize, which will allow you to make Dvar units have more morale, which I usually pass on. I don't like that one at all. Juggernaut makes it so that you can just destroy obstacles. I almost never take that one. Siege Master is quite nice. Giving you extra damage resistance in all damage channels is good, but this doesn't just do it for one unit, it does it for all units in this hero's army. So since this guy's in charge of these units, all of them get that extra bit of damage resistance. It's effectively like having 2 more bits of armor or shields, depending on what the attack is going through, armor or shields, and it's in the favor of the defender. That it's not going to get bypassed. Hardness training is something that it makes it so you can resist status effects, just like Siege Master does with just damage. This does it for all units. I typically pass on that because I find that it's not that hard to deal with status effects, but I could see it being useful in certain situations. I feel like if you put that on your main hero, you get used to it in fights, and then when you don't have it, it would be really annoying and frustrating to have to think about. Gaining stagger immunity is pretty good if you're not going to be able to get stagger resistance from like piloting or another way, like a mod that gives you stagger resistance and something else you really want. But if it does, then this is a waste. You don't really want to spend 3 points on that. Armor is pretty good. It's just like this one. It protects you and all the units in your stack. It gives you +1 armor. So not quite as good as Siege Master, but I think it's close. Nitro Battery is pretty good with the Voidtech Secret Tech. It's better than it usually is, and I don't usually take it, but I think with this one it would be more worthwhile. Vanguard Voidtech is another logical combination due to the fact that the Vanguard and the Voidtech both have a lot of mechanical units, and as a result they can support each other nicely. But unlike the Dvar, the Vanguard is a ranged focus race, so the addition of a melee unit through the Echo Walker opens up a lot more options to the Vanguard in combat. You can use that to block off certain parts of the battlefield so that if melee units want to get to your ranged ones, they have to eat a couple hits of melee overwatch. But you really don't need to go that route with the Vanguard Voidtech combination. If you want to just kind of sit back and let the enemy come to you, then you can go with the ranged approach. The combination has a lot of very nice mods which you can put on your troopers at the very beginning of the match. If we go down here, we'll see that we got something that gives you extra evasion right there. T1 Voidtech and tier 2 Voidtech, there's another thing that gives you another 15% evasion. So, you know, if you put that on your units that are going to be in the front line, maybe you want to put that on your melee so that they're just harder to hit and harder to shoot, harder to deal with, then that sounds like a good idea. But if you just simply want to put that on all your ranged guys and have them sit back and space themselves out so that the enemy has to come to them and deal with them one at a time, that seems like a really valid strategy that would work out most of the time. I mean, 30% evasion, that's almost 1 in 3 attacks just don't register. They don't hit you. You put yourself in cover, and that goes up to like 2 in 3 almost, right? Let's see, what else do we have in the notes here? Oh, you can use the pug ability to obscure your unit, so after they have this and that, they got another plus 40%, so that would be like, yeah, pretty much 2/3 of attacks against that unit would be useless. Both the phase drive and jetpacks can be used to create some extremely mobile units. If you don't want to use these two mods in conjunction, you can go the route of jetpacks right here, plus the phase drive, which is later on. You do have to wait quite a bit to get that, but you could use that to like jetpack behind somebody with a melee hero, go crazy with your hero, and then move them away. Not a lot of people have that option. I think the Kir'ko have things that let them jump in, and then another thing that lets them jump out. But I think the nice thing about the jetpack is you get 3 things. You get 3 action points when you're done doing that. Whereas a lot of the things that like this phase drive, when it teleports you, it leaves you with 1 action point. So you may want to jetpack in, kill a unit off. If you get an action point from killing a unit off with like, was it sequential kill or the ruthless killer skill, then very, very nice. I've also heard that using drone carriers with rift generators is very nice. These guys can act as a bit of a meat shield and or repairing the rift generators that take any damage who get attacked, and these guys can make it so that enemies waste their turn. So I could see that being very powerful. I haven't tried that strategy. It is a late game strategy that requires a lot of research in both this research tree, the Vanguard research tree, and the Secret Tech research tree, but it's not like you're getting bad things along the way. All of this stuff is nice, and all of this stuff is nice. I'm pretty sure that's everything we had in the notes, and that means we can now talk about the hero skills. I'm sure there were some mods that I missed in there, but we don't need to go over all of them, just the important ones that people are talking about. Dig In is pretty good. It reduces or increases your resistances to all damage types while in cover, but that's only for your hero unit. It doesn't go to everybody else, so it's kind of good, but only for one unit. It's pretty good for one unit. Can be worth investing in, but I don't always take that. Field medicine, I usually pass on. Healing a little bit out of combat is like, yeah. You can, if you just think about it a little bit, when you're on the strategic map, you don't have to worry about taking that skill. Rallying Cry, never take. 3 points so that your guys don't have negative morale penalties. I don't know, maybe that could be good if you're fighting against the Synumbra, but or going into a location where there's a lot of morale penalties, like clearing out a Synumbra site or an anomaly site. Yeah, I guess I could see that being worth it, but usually I just say pass. Don't take that one. Coordinated Strike is okay if you're going for the ranged focus and you don't need your commander or your hero to do a crazy amount of damage himself. You can just make it easier for all the other ones to do their damage. Iron Discipline is good if you're fighting somebody with psychic attacks like Synumbra or Celestian, or if they have Psyfish, but yeah, I usually pass on this one. Martial Inspiration, yeah, if you're going to be using a lot of mechanical units, don't do that. If you're playing Voidtech, you're probably going to have some mechanical ones, so probably not a good one for this combo. Battle Plan can be good if you need extra accuracy. I think that could be worth it, but yeah, if you're going to melee build, don't take Battle Plan. It's just not worth it. Voidtech Assembly is probably the most popular combination on the forums, and I think that is mostly because of how the Voidtech mods specialize in getting your melee troops into melee range, and how the assembly melee units heal themselves 3 HP every time they attack most targets. I think you can't assimilate mineral units and ethereal units, but that's like 10% of the units in the game. It's not a lot, so I understand why people would like that, but there is definitely a lot more to like about this combination. For starters, you can use the reassembly module on the what's it called? I think it's called Phase Manipulator. Yeah, you can put this mod, the one that will allow units to reassemble itself after battle if the unit's owner wins, to create a stack that is very good at harassing enemy forward bases or settlements. If you attack some place that has turrets, you can actually use Abduct and Evacuate on the enemy turrets, which is amazing. Being able to displace their stationary defenses seems like something that the developers will patch out of the game, but in the current version of the game, you can do that. I just tested it. I wish I could show it to you easily, but I don't want to jump in and out of a combat. You're just going to have to trust me. These guys have 40 movement points, so they're really, really easy to move across the map and hard to chase down. And on top of that, because they are only a tier 2 unit, they're relatively cheap. They're pretty easy to replace. So yeah, if you want to go the harassment strategy, Voidtech Assembly has a pretty nice strategy associated with that. Especially if you're fighting close fights, that assembly module on these guys is really nice, because they'll keep each other alive, and probably one of them will be able to win the fight. Just given their all-around ability to support each other. But you know, if you want to bring in something else to deal damage, a Lightning Rider would be the worst choice. Let's see, how does that actually compare? This guy seems to do more on his repeating attack. Yeah, You could still put a reassembly module on that. It is kind of a late game strategy given how far down this is on the research tier. The reassembly module is pretty far down there. I also saw some people saying that they really like giving their Vorpal snipers phase walk. The ability to walk through obstacles and just find the right shot is really, really important for a sniper. If you don't want your snipers being mobile, maybe you want them disabling the enemy through the use of concussive attacks. Where is it? There's one that does concussion, isn't there? Bleeding. Electrified. I know it has a way to do that. Yeah, you could put this on them to make it so you have concussion chance on your regular attacks. There is an ability that they can use to concuss units, so you can just go full disable with that ability, and the shock something rather. Shock pocket, stasis pocket inducer, my bad. It can remove action points to make it so enemy units, yeah, it's kind of like being staggered. They can't do as much, and if you use 3 things like that on the target, its turn is wasted. So I like that option for the Vorpal snipers as well, as just being super, super mobile. I know there's more here to this class, but that's actually all I had in my notes. I'm sure running in a wrecker is really, really nice. Being able to teleport them around sounds really, really nice, just to keep them alive. Maybe you can use this to evacuate them when they get low, or yeah, I guess you could give him the ability to teleport. Yeah, it can go in a heavy unit, so you could give that to your wrecker to teleport him into the enemy's line. Yeah, that sounds nice. I should definitely add that to my notes for the written thing. Now let's jump into our actual traits that I like. Assimilate. Yes, if you're going melee, and if you're going Voidtech, it might make more sense to go melee and take this. But yeah, I usually pass on it for my commando. I usually go with range, but I could see that being better with this one. Nanite boosters, giving you an extra resistance to stat effects, is not the best. I usually pass on that. Stabilizers is not that great. There's other ways to get a little bit of stagger resistance, so I'd say pass on that. Void bullets, almost went over that because it's close in color, but we don't need to. Battlefield repairs, yeah, pass on that. You don't want to heal outside of battle using that unless you're doing a lot of battles, then I guess maybe, but I wouldn't. Cybernetic overdrive is fantastic. It won't apply to mechanical units, but it does apply to the Echo Walker, which is nice. You want your Echo Walkers attacking. They're pretty cool, pretty useful. You can also you can use that to help heal up an Echo Walker that just took a lot of damage. They maybe took a lot of damage, they need to get into position to attack a unit, maybe they can't even attack a unit, and then you use Cybernetic Overdrive to allow them to assimilate an enemy. It could work out. Maybe if that's like the last unit in the fight, you do it that way, so that you can just get a little bit of healing on that one unit. Stunning Discharge is kind of nice if you're going melee, but if not, I wouldn't take it. And Reassemble, always take Reassemble. Being able to bring a cyborg back from the dead is great, and healing 35 HP is also amazing. So yeah, I'd take that. While not the most obvious choice, Voidtech Amazon appears to be one of the more popular combinations on the forums. People seem to really like the Amazon Echo Walker and hyper-focusing on mounted units like the Pteranodon. The Pteranodon attack tail swipe is a kinetic attack, which means its damage can get boosted by dimensional instability, and it only uses one action point, meaning that it can be used after teleporting. You could put a phase drive on this dude right here, and then it can do a massive attack tail swipe, which is an AoE, which, yeah, I think it's one of the strongest single action AoEs that you have access to. It may be the strongest one. So I like that idea. I like the idea of just bringing this unit into the backline and hitting a lot of units. I saw a picture of somebody doing, I think it was like 50 damage to 3 units with a tail swipe. So, you know, if you maybe had your main hero in one of these, if you put them in that and had Ruthless Killer and used that, you could get a tail swipe followed up by a tail swipe. Sounds really, really nice, doesn't it? I'm not sure if I want to actually build this unit here. Give me a second to bring in the money I would need to make ourselves the Pteranodon, because I do want to prove to you really quickly that it's as good as it is. No, did you not make my Pteranodon? Here we go. Yeah, so tail swipe. Only a single action attack causes knockback too. So amazing, just all around amazing. You wanna have this guy teleporting around so that he can use that with no cooldown. Just like, yeah, go and attack. I think the teleport does have a cooldown. Let's go over to, yeah, this does have a cooldown of 3 turns. So you can't use it every turn, but you can use it pretty often. And I would use it at the beginning of a fight to try and get 2 tail swipes in a row. I mean, if that's possible, if that's what you're going for. As this is a mounted unit, the Echo Walker is a mounted unit. I know that a lot of people like to take the doctrine that makes your mounted units better. I think it is, yes, animal mounted units can get more ranking, and it's easier to make them. I believe there is another one in here too, which makes something better. They deal extra damage when fighting mechanical and cyborg units. Well then, oh, I know what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of this ability in here that increases your animal's HP. We're going to get to that later, but you know, if you're going to be going mounted unit focus, you're going to be getting a little HP from here and a little bit of morale, which can help you get crits. And let's face it, if a Pteranodon crits with that tail swipe, you're going to be in a pretty awesome position. The Pteranodon can also use 2 Voidtech things that most tier 3s cannot because they are mounted. They can use these guys, I believe. No, phase walk modulator. It says it can only be applied to light units that do not fly. That may have changed. I think there was a time when you could use that on your Pteranodon, but not now. I mean, it seems like in the forums people said you could do that. And you can also use this on your Pteranodon because it is able to go on mounted units. Most of the other tier 3 units are like tanks, and they don't work quite the same way, so this can get in on that. Let's just test that you can't get the phase walk thing in here, because I don't think you count as light. You're Juggernaut. Phase walk. No phase walk. How sad. Well, I mean, you can get harder to hit from other things if you want, but being able to phase walk with a Pteranodon would be pretty freaking powerful. I think Harriers do count as light units. Heavy unit, never mind. I thought it was saying you could do that as well. So I guess things did change a little bit. Things do get nerfed, changed just a little bit to make it so it's a little bit more fair and balanced of an experience. I also saw in the forums that people like the Voidtech because Amazon operate mostly at a medium range. You don't want to be too far away and you don't want to be too close with them. So the Rift Generator can help keep your enemies at a distance, or if you want to use the Phase Manipulator to teleport the melee units that got too close away, or abduct range units to get close to your firing line, you can use that to help the Amazon units fight at a range they want to fight. I also heard that if you put the Quantum Avatar on the Bombadons, that they are really hard to deal with because the siege unit usually sits in the back line, and if somebody with a repeating attack attacks them while they have Quantum Avatar, then the attacker is teleported away, I think, on their first attack. They don't get to do the other 2 attacks. It's not so great if there's a sniper and it's a full action attack. They're still going to get to do that, but teleporting them may teleport them into your enemy melee, into your own melee units, or into a position that just makes it harder for them to fight your Barmadon on the next round. I know a lot of people were saying that the AI just happened to stumble upon that combination and it was incredibly difficult to deal with. The Amazon have access to this guy, the stagger resistance mod at tier 1. So if you want, you can put that on your Echo Walkers. Not all of the races in the game have access to stagger resistance this early on, so putting that on your melee units is a pretty big advantage, and one that if you're playing Amazon, I would lean towards doing. It's pretty easy to do this, so why not? You can also use localized rift to lower enemy resistances, which will make it easier for you to use the primal override, which is one of my favorite spells in the game, and I think people really haven't clued into how if you lower the resistance with like your Biomancer, that's one way to make it easier, but you can also do it with where is he? Localized Void Rift right here. Reduces resistances by 2. I tested it on this stack not too long ago just to see, and yeah, the odds of converting them over with, where is it? Here it is, the tactical with primal override went up. So yeah, being able to keep those units is good. Increasing your odds of getting those units is very, very good. Now, I think that's everything I had in my notes for Amazon. There was a lot there, right? Okay, we can talk about biology expert. It's not that great unless you're fighting somebody with, you know, bio damage like the Kir'ko or other Amazon. I wouldn't take that. I'd pass on that. I usually do. Renewal is very good, worth taking. I mean, you can't heal mechanical units, but still 30 HP heal is very, very nice. Visual acuity, getting extra range is always good on the Amazon, unless I guess you're going the mounted route with the hero, and then maybe you want to just get up close and do melee. The animal discipline is incredibly good with the mounted strategy if you're going to have a lot of mounted units. War Cry is not that great. I usually pass on that 4 skill points for a full action thing. I don't know. I don't really want to use a full action on something like that. Ranger training is bad, and Call of the Wild is good. Voidtech Syndicate is interesting because some people seem to really like the combination, while others seem to think that it is terrible. Those who don't like it seem to really not like the fact that the Voidwalkers don't come with anything special, and they also don't like the fact that the Syndicate don't have a single unit that can deal kinetic damage, which means that you can't get the most out of dimensional instability, which reduces people's resistances to kinetic damage. I mean, you do have a unit here that can do kinetic damage, and I think the Rift Generator can also do it, but there's no Syndicate one, so the synergy there, just initially it looks like there's very, very little, but I think that there is a lot of nice synergy there, like between the Indentured and the Overseers. Like every once in a while you want to run your Syndicate forward into a position to shoot an enemy and then rejuvenate them so that they can do another set of 3 attacks, but because of obstacles they can't run into just the right position. But with the phase walk thing, they can do that. They can run over, they can get into the perfect position, and then after that turn is over, when they're low on HP, if they're low on HP, which, you know, with that ability it would make sense because it keeps them alive, it keeps them from dying, as well as giving them a free turn. After that, then you can use the advantages from this to kind of keep them safe from a little bit further away. You may want to run through some cover to get them out of the line of sight from the enemy, or you may just run them back and take advantage of the fact that they're 15% harder to hit in general, which means they probably won't get targeted. People who are easier to hit are more likely to get targeted than those who are hard to hit, unless the one that's hard to hit is close to death. Then maybe they'll waste some turns trying to shoot the one that's slow and far away. Which, yeah, that sounds like it would work out in your favor more times than it wouldn't. Pulling enemies into your firing line of your Indentured is really nice with the Phase Manipulator. You can also use the Phase Manipulator to heal up units that like any indentured that you had used the Overseer ability. What's it called? Yeah, Psytech Revitalization. No, that's not what I mean. Cerebral Overdrive. This is the one that keeps them alive for it keeps them alive for a turn. It keeps them from going under 1 health, and it gives them stagger immunity as well as refueling their action points. So yeah, you could heal off an indenture that's been beat up quite a bit with the phase manipulator and or Psytech Revitalization. You can use the heals from here and from elsewhere to, I think, really help out your armies that are out on your peripheries, the ones that aren't going to have very much time to heal or can't get into friendly territory to heal. It is very nice having 2 units that can do a little bit of healing. The Guild Assassins, they benefit just as much from Phase Walk as the Indentured and the Vorpal Snipers that I talked about earlier. Getting them into positioning can be a little bit tricky, and running them away can also be a little bit tricky, but phase walking them through obstacles, it's really, really nice. I think also the Guild Assassins, they get Flanker, so, you know, being able to phase walk your Indentured into a good shooting position, or somebody like this Guild Assassin. Do we have one? I don't have a Guild Assassin I can show off. Yeah, well, even if he doesn't come with Flanker, you can get Flanker through this. Moving them into a good position to shoot from using this, and then doing lots of damage with that, is a really, really nice combo. I know that some people like using phase manipulators with a Mirage to harass enemy colonies, and there are some Syndicate, I think, operations and mods that you can use to camouflage those units. So if you want, you can do a little bit of a harass technique with the Syndicate, and just like with the Assembly, they can abduct turrets. So it's a really, really powerful strategy that I think a lot of people might overlook. But yeah, that's everything I had in my notes. Let's jump into the hero skills themselves. We have Keen Eye, which is, yeah, it can give you Overwatch and Farsight, or Agile Overwatch. It's good on a sniper, but pretty useless otherwise. I'd pass on it. Usually I don't take that one. Strategic Operations Support gives you more power in the sector that the hero's in, but I don't think it's worth taking. Subterfuge is, yeah, you know what, actually now I think about it, that's just for strategic operations. It's like, does that protect you against covert ops? If you put a hero in a city with that, that could be kind of nice, but I haven't tried it yet. Subterfuge I pass on, unless like maybe you're trying to camouflage a stack of phase manipulators with a hero and a Mirage. You could do that. Escape module is a take. I almost always take that. Shield battery is another one I almost always take. Having extra defense is good. Backstab is okay. If you can't get flanker from another thing, maybe take that, but it is 4 whole skill points, so probably not. Deploy cerebral controlled collars is pretty good, but I don't know. I don't usually use that when I'm playing as Syndicate, because I don't know. Module extension is pretty nice, and that happens at level 8 too. Looking at my notes, there was one thing I forgot to talk about that I wanted to mention very briefly, and that's the fact that these enforcers benefit a lot, just like any of the melee units. They benefit a lot from the phase walk module. Being able to just pass through obstacles allows them to get into position to do a lot of damage and maybe do a little bit of flanking. I did just notice, I was trying to check if I could apply the phase drive to him. I thought that this could be applied to pretty much any unit to teleport, but I just saw right now this can only go on a heavy unit. So it could go on the Pteranodon. Yes, you can do some crazy stuff with the Pteranodon and teleporting, but you cannot use that with tier 1 infantry melee to jump in, attack, and jump out. I said that earlier, I think, with the Vanguard. Yeah, that does not apply to the Vanguard or the other people that I talked about using the phase drive with, unless it's a heavy unit. Voidtech Kir'ko is another combination that I didn't expect to see a lot of synergy with, seeing as the Kir'ko focus on biological units and the Voidtech provide 2 mechanical units, but I was pleasantly surprised. Most of the synergies that I found come from the Voidtech mods making the melee units more viable. If you put them on your Frenzied or your Ravenous, then it's easier to get them into position to do lots of damage, maybe even a little bit of flanking. Ravenous, they count as heavy, so you can actually put the phase drive on them to teleport them around and get them into a better position to do a little bit of flanking. It seems like that is incredibly popular with quite a few people. They love just taking these guys and plopping them in the perfect position and then devouring a unit. I guess is that the strategy? Is devouring only cost? I think actually devouring costs a full action, so you can't do that very easily. Oh, I should have done this earlier. Alright, that didn't take very long. Let's get our Ravenous out here. There you are. When I use Devour, is that a full action? It's a single action, so you can actually teleport in and use Devour to try and kill off a unit. Yeah, and it can spawn in larvas that way. It's pretty cool. I like that idea. After that, let's see, what do we have in our notes? There's a lot of nice abilities like Shroud Step, Abduct, and Rescue, which are great for moving your units around the battlefield, which I find pretty useful when you're trying to siege an enemy down. Just moving where they're not and then firing your long-ranged attacks is really nice. Or if you're trying to close the distance, you can use certain skills to do that. I also saw that some people really like how some Voidtech mods give you extra shields, like what we were just looking at a second ago. I noticed this gives you +2 shields, very nice, and this gives you +2 shields as well as adjacent units that are Voidtech or Voidtech modded will get another 3 shields from that. So that's 5 shields right there from that one mod on adjacent units. Not the unit itself. Actually, yeah, if you put that on this unit and then place another one next to it, you could get 5 out of that. And then another 2 over there. That's 7 just from mods. And you could probably get another 2 shields from something else if you wanted to. I haven't looked into it, but I know there has to be one, especially if you run into the right NPC faction. You could probably put something pretty cool on your Ravenous. It's got 5 armor there, so you'd have like over 10 total defenses with that unit combination. And that's considering if you didn't even have anything in your colonies that give them extra armor or shields. Like the shield laboratory, I think it is, gives you an extra bit of shields. So that's pretty insane defensive capabilities on a unit that has a pretty nice attack. I'd say more than pretty nice, a very nice attack, an amazing attack. That combined with Swarm Shield, yeah, I think you could get like 15, maybe even 20 freaking defense out of it. I'm not sure if there's a limit, but I think, yeah, Swarm Shielding with all those nice mods seems very, very, very powerful. And that's actually all I had in my notes for the Kir'ko. We are ready to start talking. Oh wait, no, one more thing. A stack of 4 Frenzied with 2 Transcendence is scary powerful and only requires a couple of mods to make a very, very effective and scary stack. If you want, you can go the evasive route, you can go for the damage route, and then with a little bit of healing, I think that sounds awesome. Just a little bit of mods on 4 Frenzied and 2 Transcendence. I haven't actually tested this myself. That sounds like what you want for auto-resolving combat. Now we're ready to talk about the hero skills themselves. We have Frenzied Assault, which is good if you're going melee focus, and if you're playing Voidtech, that is more likely, so not as much of a pass as it usually is. I think, yeah, that could be good with this one. This is okay to good. Fury of the Swarm is always good. I almost always take that. Selfless Sacrifice is something that lets you move around the Oh, and this isn't the one that lets you move around the field. I always get those two mixed up. This is the one that lets you take damage for another unit. I don't like putting that on my main commander. Seems like a bad use of skill points. Echo of a Hive Mind is very good, especially if you're trying to get loads of shields through mods and swarm shielding. Shrouded Step is awesome because it is something that moves you around the field and makes it harder to shoot certain things, so it plays with the evasion aspect of the Voidtech and the just like mobility aspect of them. Being able to just move like that is very, very nice. Sure, it's only range 4, but I don't know. That seems good enough. Invigorating pheromones is less good with Voidtech than other things, but only if this hero is in charge of a stack with rift generators or phase manipulators, which seems unlikely. You'd probably put them elsewhere, especially if you take this. But I don't know. Maybe don't take it if you think there's a chance you'll have some robots in your army. Guiding Presence, always take that. It's just so good. And that's everything I had to say about the Voidtech. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, to subscribe, to share it on social media. I'm thinking that I'm going to take next week off of beginner's guides because I want to really research the next one that I do. I'm not taking it off of work. I'm just not going to post a beginner's guide for next week. Instead, I'll be spending a lot of time looking at all the doctrines. We're going to do a bit of a tier list for the doctrines over the next few weeks. I think 10 or 12 weeks I want to, or maybe a little bit more. I want to spend about 10 weeks covering the different doctrines, a tier list for each race, and a tier list potentially for each secret tech. There's only 4 secret techs in each race, so maybe I'll put them all together in one video. And that's so I can get your feedback on my rankings, on how good I think certain things are. And eventually, I think we could use that to make a pretty cool, comprehensive doctrine list for all of the doctrines in the game that I could post in a couple different places. And I feel like people would find that useful. So yeah, if you like that idea, maybe you can start posting some of your thoughts about different doctrines in the game. I'd love to start getting that kind of information sooner rather than later, but we do have 10 or so weeks until I'm planning to actually post the final comprehensive one. So feel free to take your time. Hope to see you around.